In this video, we are going to talk about finding the least common multiple of two or more numbers. And we're really just focusing on two numbers. And then using least common multiple to find equivalent fractions in order to solve real world problems, which is really what this unit focused on this time. So we have this problem. Find the LCM of 35 and 21. Now, these are pretty big numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 35. And I'm going to find the first 5 multiples of 35. And there's a couple ways you can do this. You could use a calculator and you could just add 35 together over and over again, or you could multiply 35 times 1, times 2, times 3. I'm going to use the repeated addition method because I think it's the most efficient. So always remember that the first one is always going to be times 1. So it's going to be 35. And I'm just going to go off to the side and I'm going to say 35 plus 35, and you get 70. So my second multiple of 35 is 70. And I'm just going to keep repeating this process until I go 5 multiples out. And like I said, I think this is the most efficient process because if you need to continue your multiples, you can just keep adding on. Okay, so our multiples of 35 are 35, 70, 105, 140, and 175. So I'm going to do that same process, but for 21. Now, after every single number, I'm going to ask myself, do we have anything in common yet? Okay, so the first one is always times 1, so 21. And we don't have anything in common yet. So I'm going to use the repeated addition method, in the same way that I did 35. So 42. There's nothing in common yet because there is not a 42 in this list up here. So I'm going to keep adding 21 and then look again. So 63. We don't have a 63 in the multiples of 35, so I'm going to keep adding. You get 84. I'm going to check again. We go 70, then straight to 105. So nope, 84 is not a common multiple. And last but not least, let's try this one and then see if we get it. If we don't, we'll just keep adding multiples of both. But we didn't have to, and I kind of gave that away because 105 is in both lists. So the least common multiple of 35 and 21 is 105. Okay, so that's how you would find the least common multiple. And it's nice to see these bigger numbers, to see that it doesn't have to be super scary, even though the numbers are pretty big. All right, so now we have this problem where it says subtract 3 and 1/6 minus 1 and 7/10. Step 1 is going to be to find the common denominator of 6 and 10. So I'm going to find multiples of 6 and multiples of 10 and see what they have in common. So 6 times 1 is 6. And if I skip count by 6's, you get 12, 18, 24, 30. I'm going to go up 5. Now I'm going to go to 10 and say 10 times 1 is 10. They don't have anything in common yet. 20, nothing in common yet. And 30, and there it is. So my common denominator is going to be 30. So I need to make this 30. And I need to make this 30. And in order to do that, I am going to use our giant 1. So we have 1/6 and we have 7/10. And that's going to equal something, I don't know what that something is, over 30. Same over here. And now I'm going to use my giant 1 to find my equivalent fractions. Oops, that's really big. It's okay. Okay, I had to fix that. And then I say 6 times what gives me 30? Well, I know 6 times 5 gives me 30. And when it's a giant 1, the top and bottom have to be the same. So it's going to be 1 times 5. It's going to give you 5. Now, 10 times 3 gives me 30. And giant 1 means that they both have to be 3. 1 times 3, or 7 times 3 is 21. All right, next step is going to be to solve our problem. So I am going to rewrite our problem. So 3, and then instead of writing 1/6, I'm going to write 5/30 minus 1. And instead of writing 7/10, I'm going to write 21/30. And I'm going to subtract. Well, can I move this somewhere else. Can I do 5/30 minus 21/30? The answer is no, because 5 isn't big enough. So we're going to have to borrow here. Okay, so I'm going to borrow 1 from the 3. Okay, so I'm going to take 1 away, and that becomes a 2. And then I'm going to add that 1 that I took away from the 2. I'm going to add it to this 5/30. It's going to be a giant one. And remember, we like to make things easy on ourselves. So we're going to keep this denominator the same, because then I don't need to find common denominators when I add these two fractions. And when our denominator is 30, our numerator is 30, right, in order to keep it a giant one. So then we can add these two numbers. 5 plus 30 is 35. So now this becomes 35, and now I can subtract 35 minus 21 to get my fraction, and you get 14. Okay, so your fraction part of this is 14/30, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. That's how you'd solve that problem. Okay, so this last problem says finish this problem. All right, so when we're looking at this problem, I notice I kind of just go through the steps in my head. So 6 and 4 are my denominators, found the LCM, which would be 12 in step 1. Step 2 is finding equivalent fractions, and I'm just going to verify that everything's correct. Yep, that's why my giant one will be 2/2, and then 3/3. Okay, so now I have 3 and 10/12 plus 2 and 9/12. So I'm going to add 10 plus 9 is 19, and my denominator stays the same. And then 3 plus 2 is 5. All right, so it looks like we're done. But this fraction right here is an improper fraction. That's something that I want you to keep your eye out for. So what you're going to do is I'm going to convert this improper fraction to a mixed number. One way to do that would be to divide. 12 goes into 19 one time. 1 times 12 is 12. Subtract, you get 7. This becomes your new numerator, and your denominator stays the same. Another way to do that would be to say 19, and I'm going to change the color just so you can see that's different. Would be 19 minus 12, and you get 7, and you can't take away another 12, so you get 1, and your remainder is your new numerator, and denominator stays the same. Now, ultimately, you get the same answer. So this is no longer 19/12. It's 1 and 7/12. But again, it looks like I'm done, but I'm not. I have to take this 5 and this 1, and I need to add them together to get 6. And then my fraction is 7/12. So my answer is 6 and 7/12. Rewatch this if you need more support. Come to office hours if you need help. And I will also post the answer key to the study guide.